It has been 10 years since the end of the Trojan War. All the other surviving Greek generals have long since sailed home, but the most famous hero of them all is nowhere to be found. In fact, for the first 20% of his own epic, the protagonist is completely missing. The poet Homer structured the story so that a full 2 decades have passed since King Odysseus first sailed away to fight in Troy. His destination is Ithaca. It's a small, rocky island kingdom that has been sitting entirely without a king for 20 years. Keeping the title character off stage for so long is a deliberate, engineered void. By creating a massive vacuum of leadership and order, the epic forces the audience to desperately crave his arrival. That vacuum has drawn in a very specific threat. Over 100 arrogant noblemen from neighboring islands have occupied the king's estate. They are slaughtering his livestock, draining his wine cellars, and aggressively vying for control of the kingdom. The queen, Penelope, is trapped. To delay being forced into marriage with one of these men, she promises to choose a husband only after finishing a burial shroud for her father-in-law. Every day she weaves it, and every night she secretly unweaves it to buy herself time. Meanwhile, the true heir, Prince Telemachus, is practically paralyzed. He's a young man who grew up without a father, completely lacking the physical strength and political leverage needed to expel an entire mob of grown warriors. The time for diplomacy is over. The invaders have discovered Penelope's weaving trick, and their patience has run out. The household is on the brink of a violent takeover. By locking the audience in this miserable, deteriorating household with a helpless prince and a cornered queen, the author builds a severe psychological tension. You feel the immediate, suffocating need for a protector to walk through the door. To break this 2-decade stalemate, the plot requires an external push. That push comes from Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. Taking the physical disguise of an old family friend, the goddess visits Ithaca. She doesn't fight the mob herself. Instead, she injects a dose of courage directly into Telemachus, urging him to call the first public assembly since his father left. The young prince stands before the town to demand his house back, but the assembly is a total failure. The invaders openly mock his tears and refuse to leave, proving that the local rule of law has completely collapsed. During the meeting, 2 eagles suddenly appear overhead, tearing at each other's throats. A local elder warns that this is a dark omen of the king's violent return. The invaders laugh it off, threatening the old man and cementing their own death warrants. Athena's strategy serves as a calculated escalation. By forcing the prince into the public eye, she drives the domestic tension to a boiling point, where only a total, violent resolution remains. With the situation at home spiraling, Telemachus charters a ship and sails into the night. He heads to the neighboring kingdoms of Pylos and Sparta to consult with the surviving veteran kings of the Trojan War. These diplomatic visits serve a clever structural purpose. Through the war stories of respected generals like Nestor and Menelaus, the epic methodically builds up the missing father's reputation. We hear how nobody could match his intellect or his battlefield tactics. But Menelaus also delivers a grim warning. He recounts the fate of another supreme commander, Agamemnon, who survived the long war only to be ambushed and slaughtered in his own dining hall by his wife's new lover. Finally, Menelaus shares critical intelligence he wrestled from his shape-shifting sea god. Odysseus is alive, but he is a prisoner, trapped without a ship or crew by an immortal nymph named Calypso, on an island far removed from the rest of the world. He is physically isolated, hundreds of miles of hostile ocean away from the family that desperately needs him. All of these war stories act as an elaborate hype mechanism. They establish the absent father as a legendary, almost mythical force of nature, standing in stark contrast to his vulnerable, inexperienced son. Back on Ithaca, the threat level maxes out. Realizing the young prince has left to seek help, the lead invaders pack a fast ship with 20 armed men. They sail out to a rocky strait, planning to ambush and murder the boy on his way home. Right as this ambush is set, the perspective shifts back to the clouds. The highest immortal powers have gathered to debate the fate of the trapped king. Zeus makes his final ruling. He immediately dispatches Hermes, the messenger god, to fly to Calypso's remote island and deliver an absolute order. The prisoner must be released. This entire 4-book sequence is known by literary scholars as the Telemachy. It is a prologue dedicated exclusively to the son's coming-of-age journey and the careful construction of the narrative void. Now, the separate pressures of the story have converged. The estate is being plundered, the wife is cornered, the son is marked for death, and the gods have issued their mandate. The plot absolutely demands the hero's arrival, and it is right here in the 5th book that we finally see him. But the audience doesn't meet a triumphant, armor-clad conqueror. We find a broken man sitting on a beach, weeping, as he stares out at the empty ocean. Introducing him in a state of complete vulnerability strikes so hard precisely because the epic spent its first 4 acts building him up as an invincible tactician. The decision to hide Odysseus transforms his role. He arrives as the singular, desperate cure for a world that has fallen into ruin, ensuring every action for the rest of the epic carries maximum emotional weight.